Anniversary of our church and what it means to us to reflect and those kind of things. But in the end, I'm hoping that we will give some good nuggets to our kids and their kids, because now we're on the next generation.
Yes.
Lord have mercy, what are their kids going to do? So, I mean, my kids in California, when they come, they love to go to church, but when they're in California, they do not go. Our life at the church, especially on Sundays. When I reflect back on Sundays, this was before the blue law. No, it was after the blue law now, but before the blue law. Anyway, let me tell you what that is. It's where the stores were closed on Sunday. Every store was closed except for a grocery store. And if you needed to buy stockings for church, if you could not get them until after 12 o'clock, there was no liquor sold on Sundays at all.
Not at all.
Selling, you would go across the bridge in Dallas. They call it, we're gonna go run across the bridge. That meant they're gonna go get some liquor, but you couldn't get it till after 12 o'clock. Nowadays, when you drive through the communities, everything is open, and there are plenty of things to do. So sometimes you think, do we still love our church like we used to? Or were we loving our church because we were made to be there? Was nothing else to do? A couple of questions that we have to ask ourselves, but I wanted to just start with talking about our love for the church. So let me introduce my guests today, but they're my friends, have been my friends. These are some founding members of First Metropolitan Church. And we thank the Lord that they are still alive and well and able to talk about First Met. First Met is 35 years old, and today we celebrate our anniversary. So we want to show some love to First Met and some memories, and this will go down in the archives of people that are founding members that can tell you everything about First Met. So let me just go first. To my left is Jeanette McCoy. And so she'll talk about her experiences at First Met. Okay. And this is Annette Burnham is in the middle. We call her Chef Nettie.
Hey.
She's been here for the longest. We got some interesting stories to tell about both of those. Okay. And then Carol Lewis is another one of our founding members. And I don't see her face on here, guys. Carol, are you there?
I'm definitely here. I muted my mic. Oh shoot! Now then my camera.
There, your camera was off. Okay, that's fine. I just needed to see your face. Okay, so these are our three founding members. Three of them. We had 13 when we first started, and mostly all of them are still living, I believe. Let's see if we can name them right quick. As Don Caggins, Joel Collins, Paulette Westbrook. Y'all supposed to be helping me. Who else?
So say Ruth too.
And Ruth. Yeah.
Ruth Caggins and John Lewis.
John Lewis.
And then the people who moved to Detroit. I can't remember their names.
Trying to think of their name.
Walter and somebody,
Yeah, they were going
Janelle, or
Walter and
Yeah.
Janelle. Mhm.
yeah, them.
Yeah.
And Jeanette, was your sister the bootleg lady? Was she a member on the call her a bootleg member because I don't think she ever joined, but she was there every Sunday.
She's the bootleg. She never did.
She never did join. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
So those are the people that were there. And we had all together, I remember when we first founded the church, we had 25 children all together.
Mhm.
And so we had a lot of kids, and thinking that you had 4,
Yep.
Carol had 1, and Jeanette had 1. We had 4. Who else had children?
Kagan's had 3.
Okay, and so then the Jacksons had one. They
Yeah.
had one.
Yeah.
Texas had 1. Mhm. And so altogether, I remember it was 25 because we went
It's a
to
lot.
the Baptist Congress, and we had to count because I think we flew. Yeah, we flew, and we had 25 children, and when we went to the children's conference, at that time was Jefferson was over the conference, and we got a part in all our kids got a part in the play and the production.
Mhm.
And I said, this is our first year as a church. We have 25 kids, and all of them are running things like they've been here for years. But that's just
Amen.
how gifted they were. Do y'all remember that?
I
Mhm.
do remember.
Yeah.
So that reminds me, Chenard was there too.
That's right.
Chenard, so he was
Right.
there because I remember I had cough medicine I was giving everybody so their ears wouldn't pop.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Was Dorothy there at the beginning, or she
She-
just came?
So the truth is, I don't remember, but she must have come quickly. If she wasn't in the first group, she was there very shortly thereafter.
Mhm.
Yeah. There were some that came right after, and of course we had our musician. Of course, was
And Westbrook.
yeah. That's what I was trying to think of. The Westbrooks. They had
Westbrooks. Uh-huh.
Right. Right. Because they had what?
they have
4?
4.
4
Yeah, 4
kids.
children. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the other 4. So I know
Yeah.
altogether it was a really a lot of kids, and we had so much fun. And I was about to say something, I forgot just that quick. It was anyway, it'll come back to me in a minute. But it's so many memories. So what we want to do is talk about first of all the need for First Met, because we came out of a church, Antioch Baptist Church, which is a historic church downtown.
Mhm.
And so we, 13 of us decided we needed a church, and we started like a family church because there was a lot of things going on down there that were, that was a little stressful. I think the SWAT team had been called down that year for some, how sometimes churches have problems. And so our pastor decided he wanted to start a new church. And so that's how First Met was born, out of Antioch downtown. And then we went to our first location. We met in Paulette Westbrook's home. And after that, that's the other BJ Ogletree.
Oh, yeah.
Right. 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 Because they were the daycare people.
That was our first building. So they own a daycare center.
Yeah.
Said, well, we don't have any money. We don't have any building. Where are we going to have church? And Paulette's house was the first night. And then she said, well, y'all can come to my daycare center. So we decided to go there. And we thank God for Frank and BJ Ogletree, because that's where the church first started, in the daycare center. And so we went there every Sunday. And I remember that I had just gotten a brand new white minivan. And that minivan became the church's van. We tore it up. Us packing chairs and podiums and picking up somebody's children. Somebody didn't go to church every Sunday. Y'all remember who kids I had to pick up every Sunday with mine?
No, who was that?
Chef Nettie. But anyway, I would come across town and come pick up her 4 kids. And like I said, we'd have to, since it was a daycare center, we had to pack up the church and pack it back down every Sunday. So it was so much fun. Does anybody have a great memory from the daycare?
Oh, wow.
So my memory of the daycare was the first Christmas program. So we basically, we barely started, because I guess we started in November, and then
Yes.
Christmas was the next month. And so we put on this Christmas program with the children. And basically it was just the Christmas story. We got them playing characters and just repeating sort of the scriptures. And it was great. And so, are we going to stick in the little weird things that happened too?
Go ahead, go for it.
So do you all remember the day of that? We having the Christmas program. The Christmas program's going on. Remember the little pastor's office was that we used as pastor's office was next door to the little podium stage thing. And Adrian's son stuck a stapler in his finger. You remember that? And we're in the middle of the play, and he had stuck a stapler in his finger, and everybody, the play's going on, people back there trying to get the stapler out of his finger. So that's kind of my memory of the daycare.
Yeah. I just remember our kids were a little rambunctious.
Little.
I remember Adrian's son, D, and Johnny got in trouble for they had this little book that they were writing on all the little ladies. I can't tell you what they were saying about
My son was in that group too.
Yeah, your son, that's right. Your son was in that group. So these hormonal boys were writing some things down. They were running the sound booth. Now, this was out of the daycare. We didn't stay in the daycare very long. We stayed in the daycare maybe like a month because, like you said, Christmas came and we had Christmas story. And Jordan was born that October. What was he born? August. Wait a minute now. Hold on. Yeah, he was born that August 20th. So for the Christmas play, Jordan was baby Jesus. And remember last year we had the baby Jesus and they had his son Jordan, baby Jesus. And I was saying how our first baby Jesus was little Jordan. And that's how we can tell how old our church is by his birth. And so it's just really just a lot of those stories. But I remember when we first got the daycare cleaned up, the first baptism was in the Kagan's pool. And we're trying to get the daycare, we moved to a kiddie disco. That's what I'm trying to say. And this kiddie disco had a dance floor that became the choir stand, and it had a bar that became where we ate and had our little gatherings of food. And then, of course, the DJ became the sound booth. So we had a lot of things going on it there at the daycare. That was so much fun.
Well, my memory wasn't too fun, but the daycare during the week it had children. So we had to get in there and get it freshly smelled, because the children had, there was diapers and all that. And so we had to get in there and clean it up real quick and pick up the tiny little chairs and then put the other chairs down. So yeah, it was interesting. And it was enjoyable because we did it. It was something to do,
It was
And I guess my memory is our choir. We called it the Scrap Iron Choir because I think everybody in the church was probably part of the choir.
Right.
You had double duties. I Ursula went to the choir. You come on down and
take that scarf
you just
off.
tried,
You
just tried to hold a tune. I tried to get by Carol so I can sing whatever note she was singing because I couldn't sing.
Neither could I.
It was so funny, but we did it. We called it our Scrap Iron Choir.
Everybody sang in the choir. We were also on TV. Remember, we went on TV and we had our little scarf.
Oh yeah.
Everybody was in that choir.
Yeah. And I remember the thing that was so loving about Pastor O at the time was he said we never embarrassed him. And I remember that just being so heartwarming because I was thinking sometime I thought we might have embarrassed us, but he said we never embarrassed him. And I thought you talk about love. That's love right there.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, so much love. So that was in the kiddie disco. And I think we stayed there for 2 years. And along comes Carol Lewis's father to preach. And Carol, why don't you tell that little story about how we got from the kiddie disco to a church building?
So that story, honestly, is God has done so many absolute miracles in the life of First Met. And I mean, other than the starting and sustaining the church, I think that's probably one of the first miracles. So, my dad came to preach and he said, do you all have a building fund? We did not. So, Pastor O and Lady O were going to give him a love offering for preaching that day. And he gave it back and said, start your building fund. So we started our building fund. We had to raise, it was $225,000 was the price of our first church. And the thing about that little church on Dow is one of the members saw an ad for it in the Leader,
Green sheet.
just
The
in
green
the
sheet.
Green Sheet,
The
where,
green
okay,
sheet,
whatever the
yeah.
little neighborhood newspaper.
Yeah.
So who in the world is going to think we're going to go over there and find? We ought to just call it our cute little church. It was so amazing. It was on 2 acres of land, cute little church,
Mhm.
everything. And then they had the house that had been turned into the classrooms for us. It was just perfect.
Perfect work.
And Lady O started talking about, that might have been before we actually began. She was talking about how the older people, our parents and grandparents, took nickels and dimes and built colleges and
Mhm.
maintained their churches. And we were kind of that in those early days. Wasn't that many of us, but we didn't have any money because we were all 20s and 30s ourselves. Put our little money together, got our down payment together, and God gave us that church. It was just it was just incredible, just
Yeah.
fabulous.
It was like a miracle, and honestly, First Met is a miracle story because we never had anybody giving us millions of dollars or people that were millionaires in our church. We just didn't have a lot of money, and all of us had a lot of children, which
Mhm.
brought about a lot of expenses. So we just didn't have a lot of money. But I wanted you to tell that story because Pastor Abel I wanted you to call his name because we should always call his name. He was a pastor in Kansas City, Kansas or Missouri. Which one was it? Anyway,
It's
Kansas City,
Missouri.
Missouri. And he had a huge, huge, huge church. So he was some kind of pastor. Okay, I wanted you to know
Mhm.
that. So he had come down to preach for us, and he gave that money back. He said, "No, y'all need to get out of this kiddie disco. So start your building fund." And that's what we did with that money. And just right after that, the lady found the church for us. And let me just tell you one thing about this church. It was a brick building. It looked like somebody had church that morning and they
Mhm.
left it, and we just walked in. It was clean.
Yeah.
It, everything you wanted, communion trays, offering things. The benches were made professionally. It was nothing raggedy about it. Had a daycare and pastor had an office over there. We had a fellowship hall and room. So it was like the perfect thing. And do y'all remember that pecan tree?
Mhm.
That's one of my favorite members. I don't know if y'all like pecans, but anyway, they had this huge, I think it was 2 of them, and the pecans just fell to the ground. And when I remember going there one Sunday morning, people were out there picking them up. And then one year we went there and there were no pecans. And we said, what happened to all the pecans? Well, the neighborhood was coming to pick them up during the week. And we called them one day. We told them, do not pick up our pecans. But so that was the small church there on Dow. And that
But
was,
Lady O, the church on Dow, I mean, you guys remember the classes we used to have there? We had exercising class, the sewing classes, we had cooking classes. I mean, it's amazing how we had so much going on in that small church.
the
I
food
mean,
pantry,
activities,
pantry.
plays, everything.
Oh, well, we're gonna talk about the plays in a minute because we gotta talk about the plays.
Yeah.
Talk about my drill team.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
With the
Yeah.
little berets. Yeah.
Oh, that was so cool.
They were
I know.
cute.
We gotta talk about the dance ministry.
Oh, God.
So let me just put this in here before I forget. But back in the day, it was Love You Blue, and we had a lot of people who were
Don't even go there.
Oiler. They were Oiler fans, Love You Blue fans. And so, sometimes Bishop would get caught up in the spirit. He would just be going and going. And, church went over just a little bit, not really much. But some people would take up the money, the offering. And so we noticed that some people never came back out of the room. There were 2 doors on either side of the pulpit, and they take the money in there to on this side near the parking lot to count it. So we noticed people were not coming out at the end. And so one time I don't know who told us that, hey, come around here. The window on the outside of where the finance room, we found some of our staunch members climbing
going out that window. Yep.
Love You Blue t-shirts on, going to the game. Now, Jeanette.
See, I knew she was good.
Jeanette was one of them, okay?
90 years old and can't live that down.
I wondered if we were going to tell that because that's one of my memories from Dow Street too.
Exactly. Exactly.
That was Deacon Smith. Remember, they had the Deacon going through our DNA.
Deacon Smith is the, you know what? I think he was the one that actually got us starting with the 2 services. So that's
Yes.
when pastors say, well, you
Yes.
know what? We need an early
Yes.
service
Right.
and we need a late service.
Yeah.
We started because the deacon would not sit up front. He'd be on that back bench. And I'm like, what are you doing sitting way back here? You're supposed to be up there so he
could ease out. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so now let's move on and talk about the plays that we had. Teresa Corbett, and I hope she's watching this.
Mhm.
Teresa
Wow.
Corbett was the best theatrical
Yes.
ministry leader
Yes.
we've ever had.
Mhm.
She
Yes.
put on some productions that, you know, and she was a kind of unassuming kind of person. I don't know exactly how to, you know, describe.
Quirky. She was quirky and
Yeah, you just didn't think that that would come out of her. And then I knew she'd be practicing every night and da 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 da. But when we came for the production, I'm like, wow.
mhm.
She would produce some of the phenomenal plays. And so do y'all have one in particular y'all remember on Dow or have a memory that she did?
I remember Jeanette were you the witch in that one or the devil? Were you the devil in the one on Dow?
The devil.
For some reason, I always got tagged as
Jeanette
as
always
this
played the devil,
mischievous one.
and she did it very well.
Did it very well. Awesome job.
So I
Yeah.
remember it was one that we ended up producing double at University of Houston.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't
yeah.
remember who, if
Yeah.
Jeanette was in that one or not, but yeah, that's one I
Mhm.
remember that we it was so good that we ended up producing it over there as well on their stage.
And we even took one on the road.
Right?
Remember,
Yeah.
we traveled. We was a traveling group. I was like, oh my goodness. We
We
took it on the road.
Yeah. Mulebone was my favorite one.
Okay.
I
Oh,
think that I remember. Then they had a couple of mystery dinners, who killed people and stuff. What is your favorite? Do you remember a favorite one? I know we did one that Lamberty did, the yellow, what's it called? The Wiz. We did the Wiz.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I can't think of the other one that I really liked.
What was the one that the singers? Because I remember being, and y'all know I can't sing. I was a backup singer. I don't know how I got to be a backup singer, but I wasn't it some singers?
Well, what they did was the choir, that was the big choir, decided they wanted to move the older people to start an older choir. And so Miss Decker started playing. Remember, she played for the older choir and Annie
Yeah.
and all of those people, Dorothy, they had those little hymnals they were holding like this. And so you joined that.
Banging on that piano, I tell you.
Yeah, she could sing. Now let's talk about the dances because I stopped singing in the choir and I started doing the dances, the choreography for the drill team.
Mhm.
Y'all remember we
Oh.
are dedicated. Da, 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 da. You know, we were doing the little.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Right.
that's
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I
They
see that
were-
quite often.
Yeah, they were good. I think we have photos of them too. And they, they were arranged from tallest to sort of shortest.
And the
And they would come in doing their little drills and so forth.
Pam, and what's her name? Hightower. She made all our little
Ina.
Mhm.
Mhm.
dresses or whatever.
Yeah.
We had the gloves. It was so
Or
beautiful.
you
That was
remember the
good.
praise dance we did with the fans, Order My Steps?
Wait a minute. Let me tell you. Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, because Annette was in that one. I still have that video, Annette, in there.
No way.
Okay, we got to show that. Maybe I'll show it for the church anniversary. But I gone to see Alvin Ailey. As a matter of fact, they're here. So I went to see them last night. And I was in the drill team and I love to dance and so forth. So I've gone to see Alvin Ailey and I told the ladies for Black History Month, I want to do this dance. And so we had the fans.
Mhm.
I want to walk where.
Worthy
And we had these dresses
according
that went out
to
like this.
your way.
If you
We
order-
jammed that, I tell you. I'm so proud of myself.
We got invitations for people to say, can y'all come do that at our church? Remember we did it at the
Mhm.
place where they had the little, not clinic, it's, what do you call it?
No, it was a
Community center.
right.
And somebody sort of invited us to come do it at their church. So we were like, we were
Mhm.
good.
Had a couple little traveling shows.
We did,
Mhm.
we really
They
did.
could do it. Now, so I done told my little trick on my little everything about everybody else. Let me tell you one on Carol. Okay. Now, she was over the money, the finances, and so forth like that. So she was one of the trustees, and she kind of handled that area. But she also helped with the children every once in a while. And my little Jordan, was it Jordan and Joseph? Which one was it, Carol? You tell the story because
When they ran out of church, when they ran out of church on me.
yeah.
This was hilarious. Okay, so you all remember there would be a period when we welcome our guests and so forth and each other, so they'd have the period and the music would play and everyone would stand up and walk around and hug and say hello to each other. And so it was Jordan and Avin Randolph's son were sitting there on a pew, and the music started playing and the people stood up. They looked at each other, nonverbal communication. They looked at each other, figured nobody was watching them. They darted out that door and went to swing on those swings. But I was watching. And I went and followed them outside. I'm like, oh no, come on back. They thought they had gotten away with something. Nobody was paying them any attention. They're like, okay, we're about to go outside and play right now. Lewis was on it.
Yeah.
Come on back.
That was Officer Lewis.
Right.
They could not get by. So what my boys started doing, they started avoiding her. They would go the other way. They saw Officer Lewis, they would go the other way.
So my other Dallas story was about Sister Deckard. You're talking about her playing the piano. Y'all remember that night we did Family Feud? And
Okay.
Sister Deckard is a biblical scholar, right? So everybody wanted her on their team, but we got her on our team. And what I don't like about Family Feud, I still don't like that about Family Feud, is you can get all the questions right and you miss the last one, the other team takes your point and win. And that's what happened to us that night. Sister Deckard had gotten all those answers right for our team. So we're there, we're about to win. The very last question the other team got, and I'm sitting there like, well, how did we lose? Because we were getting all the questions right.
Right.
That Family Feud.
But they were not worth the same amount of points. And I tell you another wonderful memory I have, we had so many on dial, but Jeanette, I'm gonna have to call you out on this one. We used to play, we'd have a big thing every summer, and we'd have the whole church would come and have a picnic, and we would have a baseball competition. It would call the Saints and the Sinners. Guess which side Jeanette was on?
What side they put me on?
But she could hit that baseball. Oh my God, she was a great hitter. I think y'all won most of them though, right?
Yeah, we did.
Sad because Pastor was on with the Saints. All the good people on there, and Jeanette knew who to put on her team, so they were really winning.
So if we're gonna talk about what Lady O used to do, y'all might know Lady O gonna love to play some cards and some bid whist. And you talking about if she doesn't win the hand, she's gonna win the talking game.
Right.
Sit down at that table with her if you will.
People used to stand in line because they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna beat Lady O this year. And Lady be like, all right, come on with it. Come on, and talk much smack.
I'm talking about it.
Yes.
But my one time I remember, my mom used to come up that day too, and Carol, your mom too. And I remember them there at the picnics and just having so much fun. But I remember, what's the lady's name that had the two boys that was in the children's room too? I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, I had certain people who could be my partners because I didn't want nobody who didn't know how to play. Because we would play we wouldn't play bid whist. The other one we play bid whist. Spades. That's for the children. We play bid whist. So I had to be very careful about who I let play. And Linda Cox, I remember her. She always gonna try to come for me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there playing, and they thought they had me, right? And so I put some cards between my toes, and I put them across the table to my partner. And because you know how you have to win the bid, and I had 2 spades, and I knew that if my partner got the lead, that they could. So
You could
anyway,
run it.
knew I'm sharp, and was I'm stretching my leg on the table to my partner, and my partners go, "What?" I'm trying to tell her, "Don't say that. Take the cards." So here comes Linda Carter. Oh no! Oh no, she didn't. Look at all up on the table. I got busted. So
So you all, our point has been made. You see how serious she is about this.
Very
So like I said,
serious.
sit down with me if you
To
will.
this day, she is the same way. Don't get it twisted.
well, I didn't want Linda Cox to beat me because she talked a lot of trash too. Y'all know Linda. Uh-huh. So I didn't want her to beat me. She and Sandra Mosley. I don't know if her name was Mosley at that time, but you remember
Yeah.
Sandra Mosley.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Both
Right.
did that. So that was Dow Road. And so once we, let's see where we are. So once we had been there for a long time, I don't remember how many years, but it was just a wonderful place to raise your children.
Mhm.
It was a family. Everybody knew each other. I think the church could sit about 250, if I'm not
Right,
mistaken.
I think that's
And
about
that's
right
why we
too.
go to 2 services because we were literally packed out. So we went to 2 services, and then Pastor came up with this Vision 2000. We're like,
Mhm.
Vision 2000, okay, because that was before. We were like, Vision 2000, a long way off. So anyway, he starts looking for land. And I have to tell this story real quick. It's a part of a story that he tells so wonderfully, and I really would like for him to tell it. But he says, because I remember him doing it. He started looking for land because at first we thought we were going to buy that land and we were going to buy everything up around us. And the people in that community did not want us to stay.
Mhm.
So we realized that was not where we needed to stay. And it was back off in there in a neighborhood. It was a commercial district where you really
Mhm.
couldn't find us unless if you got lost, you might find us. But you just can't hardly, unless somebody drove you in there, you wouldn't be able to find where the church was. And
Mhm.
we wanted to stay there. We loved it, but God wanted us to move out. So Pastor said that God told him, let's go searching out for more land. He went searching, and long story short, he found the property that we're on now on the Beltway. It was full of trees, and on the back of it, it said, so many acres, 25 acres, we'll subdivide by family, this family. So long story short, they wanted all this money for it, and we didn't have any money except for what, little bit of money we had. And so long story short, they said they wanted to work with this church family, and they gave it to us for $10,000 an acre, which is unheard of, and was even unheard of back then. But
Mhm.
the church up the street, I think the Nazarene got theirs, I think was $15,000 an acre. And so
Mhm.
when we offered the money, first we offered $5,000 an acre because that's really was kind of stressing for us. But the man said, no, I cannot take back to this family $5,000 an acre. Come on. The Nazarene got the last miracle. They paid $15,000 an acre. So come on. So Pastor Woodbeck said, well, what about $10,000 an acre? We knew that was something we could not pay, but we were trying to get the property. So we took it back to them, and they said, yeah, they would give it to us. So they gave it to us for $10,000 an acre. And then they said, but you got to sell your church that you're in. And we're like, oh my God. So we put that little Dow Road church up for sale. It sold right away. Then we didn't have nowhere to go because the property was just trees, 25 acres of trees. So we had no place to go. We had sold our church. People were coming over looking at the church while we were still there before we could get out. And so long story short, we heard that Brook Hollow moved out of their church and it was available. And so we moved into there on Pinemont. We call that the location before the location. And so we moved in there for 1 year exactly while they were building our new building. So anybody have any thoughts about that? Leaving that Dow Road was really so scary, going to the location before the location on Bingle.
That was really a faith journey for other members
Mhm.
because people didn't understand how we could sell our church when we had nowhere to go. I mean, there were people who were really kind of been out of shape about it, to be honest. But that was an opportunity for them to see God work. And, I remember thinking, where were we going? I remember we had thought about renting a hotel and schools. We had thought about all those things. And then, God's timing was such that the Brook Hollow location was available. But it really did. It opened some people's eyes as to sort of making a faith journey really going where you don't know where you're going, and you're really relying on God to lead you. So it was absolutely that for the congregation.
Right.
And it was interesting too, because that building, it was a
Before you do that,
Okay.
to back on Carol's, does anybody remember what what pastor's vision statement was, or what do you call it? Theme.
The thing, look, my memory is not that good
Bold faith.
for a big vision.
For a big
Yeah,
vision,
vision,
yeah.
yeah.
Give us. I should have said, give us a tickler. You said
Yeah,
bold.
bold
You
faith
just
for
said
big
bold. We did, yeah, bold faith.
Mhm.
for-
that little thing
Mhm.
that we all
Right.
got. And
Right.
the reason why I wanted to say this before Annette jumps in, because
Mhm,
people were devastated that we would sell that,
mhm,
Right.
because they were
Mhm.
in love with that building. And
Yeah.
even after we got the new building, some people still could not get with it. And Dan was one of them. He was like, I just can't believe we sold our building. No, we're over that way, Dan. Get over it.
Mhm,
So I wanted to just throw that in there, that
Yeah.
it really was a bold.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yes, it was.
And it sort of ties in with what I was going to say, Lady O, because we were leaving a brick building, and that building was like a manufactured building. You know, it wasn't a brick building. And so a lot of people were devastated with it, you know, because we were all settled over there. We were comfortable, you know, everybody knew each other. And so now we had to go. It was sort of like we were out, you know, back there, we were back in the community, but now we're like out, you know, and everybody's looking at us. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was hard, and it was a bold jump. Over there, I remember celebrating I think it was our 20th anniversary, because I remember you all giving us a little party in there in the fellowship hall, and I remember I got a silver something. So it's silver 20 and 25.
I think it's
Um,
25.
25.
Must be 25. And so we had that little party over there. And I remember we got a lot of young adults over there with kids. That's where,
Mhm.
you know, some of the people came that, you know, Mike Williams and his family, and Diana Wandex and her little kids, and her family. So we built some families there. And I remember we still did our theatrics thing. I remember a big play that I did where we were, I remember walking in these robes with the choir robes and the books. It was a part of the play. And that's where, what was the girl's name? Who's her, oh gracious. Anyway, she took over the theater and whatever.
Joanne?
No, the one who, she married, what's her name's son? You know, the staff member, Billy Wooten.
Oh,
Oh,
Rochelle.
yeah.
Rochelle.
Yeah, right.
Rochelle,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
She came at that time, and she took over the theatrics and
Right.
stuff. Great job.
Yes,
And
she did do a great job.
And of course, she caught the eye of our staff.
Michael
Wooten.
Wooten,
Mhm.
right.
And I hear they got 5 kids. So
5 kids,
Mhm.
looking all like him.
yeah, I'm telling you, he only had one. Billy Wooten, he only had 2 kids.
Mhm,
You know, he had Andrew, and then he had
Right.
Mike. And so
Right.
he was only going to have children by the one, Mike.
mhm,
So he took one son and got 5 grandchildren out of one.
mhm, mhm.
But yeah, it was a great time over there. The funny time I remember over there is, it wasn't so funny, but we had someone who was taking food out of the refrigerator. And this particular family, we had one of our, you know, games, and we had brisket. You remember that brisket? There were about 2 or 3 briskets left over. So pastor said, well, just put them in the refrigerator and we'll have them for Sunday. You know, we'll have some kind of whatever. We come back and all the briskets are gone. And we were livid. Like, how can you steal from the church?
Mhm.
Took the briskets, and we knew who it was, but we never confronted them. We said, if they need the brisket that bad, let them have the brisket.
Mhm.
But one of their kids, they had a lot of kids. So one of the kids came and told us that it was some good briskets. So kids gonna tell everything, right?
Right.
So we had to put a lock on the freezer. It's like, this is crazy.
That's crazy.
But now past that, let's talk about the caravan. Once we got the church built, and
Oh, wow.
it was like we were still taking our pennies and doing what we could. Remember, we didn't finish the building. We only did the bottom floor.
Right.
And then the top floor, the men were going to have to build it out.
Mhm.
So we had some Southern Baptist people come over in their vans, and they stayed and they helped us build it out. But before that, do y'all remember the caravan from the location?
Mhm.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
yes. Well, I remember my parents came down for that, and my dad preached the first sermon. Lady O said, say his name, Reverend Earl Abel, Kansas City, Missouri, 3619 East 35th Street, 64128.
Give him his props.
I know that's right.
Oh, and so we had the caravan. We all lined up from the Pinemont location before the location, and took you guys went in a limousine and
White limousine. My mom was
yes,
Mhm.
yes, it was quite
It was
impressive,
nice.
very, very exciting, honestly.
Yeah,
Very
we
exciting.
loved our families a lot. So in that
Yes.
limousine, my mom and his mom and all the children and so forth. And then, like I said, Reverend Abel and his wife. I mean, they just came down. We were family. So
Right,
Mhm.
I
exactly.
remember that first sermon he preached there.
I know.
Went out. Remember?
The lights, I do remember the lights went out. Yes. And he preached all the way through the lights were dark. He's preaching through the lights went out.
Mhm.
Going. And then one thing that happened that's real important because it happens a lot of times when something major happens at First Met. The lights went out, but the rain came so hard. It was like heaven was caving in on us, but it was
Mhm.
God was just showering us with all of this love and thanksgiving that
Mhm.
we're going to be watered and it's going to grow from all the rain that I'm going to provide. You know, I always try to figure out what is God saying, and it's like He was saying, "I'm going to provide. I'm happy. I'm blessed. I'm blessing you guys, and I'm pleased with what you are doing."
Mhm.
So we had a great time. The newspapers came out. We cut the ribbon
Right.
into the building and went in. So anybody have
Walked in with our choir robes. We had choir robes then.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. We marched in, I tell you, we did.
Yeah. And Shirley was our choir director at that time. And
Mhm.
Shirley is gone on to be with the Lord, but she was a
Okay.
very committed person and very, very good with the choir. So,
Yes. Yes.
Was.
Shirley Smith, right? Shirley Smith.
Yeah,
Yeah, Shirley
yeah,
Shirley
Smith.
Smith.
yeah.
Mhm.
right.
But Lady O, I know I may be jumping the gun,
Go ahead.
but the other day, Pastor Johnny, he was over in the new building, and I really got emotional
You jumping,
because,
you jumping. Wait, hold on. You jumping. I can see where you going.
okay, okay,
Do
okay,
not.
okay.
Don't start yet because we got a few more minutes on in this new building. So in this new
All right.
building, we are here, and this is what people were saying about us in the community. How in the world that little church get 25 acres on the Beltway? We need to be on the Beltway. We're the prominent church. We're this, we're that. And we were hearing a little haterade there from other people, but it was just another miracle
A
that
miracle.
God had for us. And that's just kind of how He continues it on. And as we get ready to go to the end part of it, and then we're going to talk again about the miracle that He's doing right now.
Mhm.
So give me some fun things that y'all remember about the Beltway experience.
Mhm.
So one of the things about the Beltway, this is what I remember. So, we had always been, we were a little church on Dow, and then, we were growing. We were packing out the Pine Mountain location, but we still knew everybody, right? Everybody knew everybody. And so Dorothy Hodge was the church secretary at the time. So we were in the new building on the Beltway, and somebody walked up to me and said, My kid can't find his coat. Where should I look? And I said, well, ask Dorothy. And they said, who's Dorothy?
Dorothy.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so that was sort of the sign that the church was no longer a little church,
Mhm.
and everybody wasn't going to know everybody anymore. And
Right.
so, that was just kind of symbolic for me
Mhm.
at that moment in that time. At that time.
Because Dorothy was an icon. I mean, Dorothy was everybody that came, Dorothy
Right,
knew them and they
right,
knew her. And they just didn't know her name. They knew her.
Mhm.
And so Mildred and Dorothy, our first
right,
staff, Bill
right.
Wood, and who else was the early staff?
Was Mary Cook? Mary was there at the time, or she came later?
Wasn't the early staff, but she came after.
Later. Mm.
But wait a minute, no, she was early.
The reason I'm thinking Mary was there is look, Mary had told me a story over on Pinemont. I didn't know if we were going to tell this or not, but she said there was a mouse in that Pinemont location, and she said she had left the apple on her desk, and she got back the next day, and the apple had all the little nibbles on it. Mouse had eaten up her apple. So I think she was there about that time. I think she was there at that time.
Well, she was there on let me tell you how I know she was there. She was there on Dow because a lot of
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
right.
she was.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, she sure was.
Her boys and the Williams boys loved to fight. And
yeah, that's true.
They said, they're fighting out here. And Mary took off her shoes, and she was a tall girl. She took out across the field to stop the fight between the Williams boys and Natalie Williams.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that happened too.
Yeah, she was there. But Dorothy became the secretary at the location before the location. And then once we moved to the Beltway, we needed some more staff.
Right.
Mary Cook came on. She came on with us then. And she and who did I just say a minute ago? The one she cooked those good biscuits, Miss. Oh gracious. She was at Antioch. Gracious. Mildred.
I was gonna say Mildred.
Yeah, Mildred was at Antioch, but she didn't come to first until later on.
Right.
Biscuits, and remember we used to have food for every Wednesday night. We'd have food.
Mhm.
Food and so forth. It would be so good. You come there. The other thing about the daycare, the Beltway, is that I opened the daycare there, and we got another couple of ladies who were running it, but I helped to open and organize and set it up. And then when they didn't work, eventually Bishop said, his pastor then, he said, you're gonna need to come here to run this daycare because I can't do it. And with the owners or the people who are doing it are not committed, and I can't do it. So that's how I came. I came to run the daycare. I came out of public education as a counselor to run the daycare in '99 is when it was. So that was a great thing. We used to have Taekwondo there. I mean, there were just so many wonderful things. Anybody else have a memory? And I have to mention Cynthia, since she passed away last year, but Cynthia Connor, I mean, that was one of our top soloists. And I'm Gonna Get My Princess, and all those songs were sung there on that stage with Cynthia.
It was.
Again, our plays. We had so many plays in the beginning. I mean, like play dinners. We had dinner. It was like big time. It really was.
Big productions.
Right.
Well, and the thing is the sermons were always what we needed to grow us. And I think that's something to really keep kind of front and center as we speak about all the things we did that were fun.
Absolutely.
And the core of the church is that we were always taught. And Pastor and Lady O, they don't like staying in the same place at the same time. So, they're always looking for things that elevate the body.
Right.
Don't just get in a rut and stay there. No, we want to be elevated, and we want to, we want to continually feed you and make sure that your families are fed. And the thing I'll tell you about you all that was just hugely helpful was the transparency that you all always shared in your marriage. And so it allowed couples to know, that, you're going to have some tough times, but you don't leave. You stick in there and you work on it, and you push, and you work it out. So just really thankful to you all for that, honestly, and for, what you've done for our families. One little vignette I'll tell you, I know about my kids. When Brittany left Houston and went to Dallas, she was looking for a church that reminded her of First Met. She ended up in North Dallas Bible Fellowship because she said, Mom, it reminds me of First Met. And sure enough, when we got there, we agreed. It reminded you of First Met. That reminded you more of First Met on Pinemont. They were in a little temporary thing at the time too. But that was the thing that we wanted to feed our kids with, something that reminded them that when they start looking, they look for something that reminded them of their home church.
And that's one of the things that Lamberty said when she went to New York. She said, I can't find anything like First Met. So she stopped going to church. We kept trying to help her find somewhere. She couldn't find anywhere. So that's when she fell out. When she went to New York, she said, I can't find anything like First Met, so I'm not going to go. And then once she found something in California, then things kind of fell apart with the pastor. Something happened with him. So that kind of just threw her back. So I wish she were here so she could be at first met. But
Mhm.
let's talk about the next part before we get to currently. Okay, because look like we're about to run over a little bit, but let's talk about what the church meant to us growing up. And Carol kind of started off there. Um, how did First Met impact your life, your family,
Mhm.
and so forth? And you know, with Pastor O, because he's always been just such a genuine,
Mhm.
loving person who did want the families to stay together. We were termed the family church before we said it. That's a family church, and they'll teach you how to, you know, pull together. And even the singles were part of our family. So
Right.
anybody have anything that, what did Pastor O mean and the church mean to you as growing up? I mean, growing up in those days.
Well, to me, being a single mom of 4 children, it meant a lot because I could bring my children there and they wouldn't be set apart, for not having not a father or something or a father figure. And so they were still getting the word, they were still growing up, they could still have that closeness because you watched everybody's child and you could whoop everybody's child. So it was just, it was a family to me. It meant a lot because at that particular time I was down here by myself. And so when I didn't have anyone, we had First Met, holidays, Christmas, birthdays, all that kind of stuff. We could depend on each other. So that's what it meant to me.
Mhm.
And it brought back memories for me from, I guess, early childhood, living in Beaumont and Port Arthur, the little country towns that you felt at home in
Mhm.
those churches. And that's what
Mhm.
First made you feel like. I mean, I couldn't wait for Sunday when, we
Right,
were here,
right.
because you saw your friends. You did things like buying food and eating it in the back and hoping your parents didn't see you. They sitting in the choir and they looking at you, pointing their finger, and you're like, oh, I'm in trouble. But you felt family,
Mhm.
and it always felt comfortable. You felt like this is where you can go if
Right,
you need to go somewhere. And
right.
that's how First Med made you feel like if you needed someone to talk to or you need somewhere to go, this is family. We're not so
Mhm.
big that you can't come to us.
Right.
So you can come to us if you need us. We're going to be there for you.
Mhm.
You're not just a number. You
Right.
are a person. And
Yeah,
that's how
no
they treat
judging.
you.
No
Yeah,
judging. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
good, Jeanette, because that's how now we have that our little logo theme. It's a place where you belong,
Right.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
like family. So, and I think that that's too one of the things I really family, and then the word. You're gonna have Bible study.
Right.
Definitely.
Experiencing
Right.
God was my first Bible study that it has just impacted me the rest of my life. And we had that at, does anybody remember experiencing God?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And then Pastor wrote the book, Moving to the Next Level,
Right.
there, and preached those messages. And now he's coming full circle and doing them again
Mhm.
in our Bible study now. And it's just so wonderful that the things that he picks and chooses.
Yes.
So anybody else want to share something?
I mean, I think all of that and, what I, mentioned at first, just about the transparency that you all always have expressed through both of your preaching. The thing I would add that's kind of aside from the spiritual is that First Met also has always done everything that helped the children, our kids academically. I remember the first, uh, whatever SAT prep Brittany went to was at First Met. And then I know there was another one that was, preparing the kids for these college entrance exams, what to expect when you take them. And so that's an important thing too, that a lot of times, the kids may or may not get in the school, but it's real important that the church also offered that little piece of, helping people to get ahead, just
Mhm.
promoting being your best and, standing up and, the opportunity for the kids to do things in service that then lets them learn how to speak in public and just all the little things that they need to get ahead in life.
Right, right.
And you know what, to add to that, Carol, it's just like Black History Month here. First Met never let you forget where you came from.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so there
Mhm.
was always something to bring you back to where you came. You wasn't always the CEO or CFO
Right.
or
Mhm.
maybe this VP or something.
Mhm.
This is your history. You
Right,
need to know it. You
right.
need
Yeah.
to know where you came from. You
Mhm.
need to know how you got to where you are. And
Mhm.
we gonna bring that to you so
Mhm.
you never forget. So it
Mhm.
may not be just in February. You may hear
Right.
this throughout the whole year
Mhm.
at First Met. So that was something that I always like. It's like you came for the family, but you stayed for the word.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
word came in all kind of shapes,
Yep,
sizes, and fashions.
absolutely. Yeah.
Love that. And we can't go through Black history without mentioning Sister Berry. Sister Berry, we were at her house getting our she would make the I forgot this family, but anyway, they had green. Everybody, all the kids had green on. So we would always get our, you wouldn't dare come without having some African attire.
Mm-mm.
So
The
you
whole month of February, actually.
that's right, she would make it. But
Mhm.
I would say this too, and just getting to coming to a close, that Pastor Ogletree, I think that the thing that I love about him, not speaking as my husband, but as my pastor, is that God called him out of Antioch to start First Met.
Mhm.
And I've seen so many families that have been nurtured and built up. Their foundation has been on what he created, what he started. And
Yes.
so the other thing that I would say that we can say 35 years later, he has a name throughout this city and state and beyond
Mm-hmm.
that people know and that we don't have to be ashamed of.
Mhm.
So true.
He's not, like I said, nobody's perfect, but we know that a lot of things happen throughout these years in some churches and pastors and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. And
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to go through that. He had a good name. People respected him in all races, and we did interface intimately with a lot of white pastors and UBA and BGCT and all those things like that, where we were exposed to all races, and they respected him in every facet. And that's why when he had this thing with the school board thing, we're like, are you serious? You're not talking about Pastor O, because we know the character that he has and has had since day one, that we've known him for 35 years, and people don't change all of a sudden. So I would say that then he's a learned man. He was an attorney. And so he wants you to read books. He wants to study. And his messages that he brought to us was so powerful and so meaningful. It's some people used to say, I think he's been reading my mail, because how did he know to preach that? That's what I needed, or that's what I was going through.
Mhm.
So, and then another thing too is that the children loved Pastor O. They literally
Mhm.
respected him and honored him, and that he was not so that they couldn't touch him.
Right,
They knew who
absolutely.
the pastor was, and they could walk up to him and they could eat a piece of chicken with him or whatever. So I wanted to just say that, and then we're going
Right.
to go on now to talk about where we're moving now. One of the things that pastor has always been too is a man of order, and trying to make sure, looking for the future. That's why he did the Vision 2000. We're looking for the future, where we're going. The future's just not there on us, and now all of a sudden, oh, we got to do something, react. So he started looking at, I've got to make some transitions here to make sure that the First Met continues on with the spirit and flavor that we started. Okay, so Pastor Johnny was a little boy in the church, and he did everything from move furniture to the usher, the sing, and he was a little rambunctious too sometimes, but he's a good kid. But he grew up in the church, went off to college, got his master's degree at Virginia Union as his master's of divinity, and so did his wife Cornita. They both had their master's of divinity. So when we looked at who was going to take the church on, well, Joseph went ahead and got his church and moved on. And then Jordan, of course, he's trying to get a wife and have babies. And Johnny was always right there as a person that we knew that we would pass it on. He's got his dad's namesake, he's got his heart, and for people. And that's what we really wanted to make sure, that First Met is always a family person, always in the word, and always, having a good name and loving the people. So he has that. So Now we're at a point, we tried to get the building built years ago, and the person we were having build it was a crook, and God didn't want that man's hands on that building.
Mhm.
So he would not let it go forward. And so the good thing about the miracle is we did lose some money on that building, but God he's able to multiply exponentially
Mhm.
back whatever you've lost. And so
Mhm.
here we are this time of the year, we're getting ready to build a church again, and the pandemic comes. Who can finish or build a church during a pandemic when the people are not even in the church? But God. So God
Oh,
is
God.
showing us
Mhm.
he can do. So he kept the church going. We never lost anything in these 2 years. And the loan for the church had already been approved. So now we're getting ready to go in this new building. I'm gonna let Annette start, because she was about to say something about the new building. So I'm gonna let you jump in there, Annette, with your comments about that transition, where we're going.
And real quick, back to Pastor has never changed. He's always been the same man. He has never changed in all these years. And he's a man who really amazes me because he will remember your name. He
Yeah.
remembers all his members' names, which is, I don't know how he does it, but he does. But Pastor Johnny was showing me around in the church, and I got very emotional. He was videoing because we were doing Thursday prayer. And I got emotional because it looks the same way. Remember when the people came and helped us build First Met? How it was in the inside, and we were eating and they were bringing food to us. I was like, oh my God. And for me to see that, this is my second go around. And I got very emotional that I'm still here for that. And that, I mean, it's like deja vu. It just really blew me away. So
I got it. And you're absolutely right, Annette, because we've been able to see it from the living room of Paulette Westbrook to the
yeah.
door. We put all of our monies, everybody here has put money in there, and
Yes.
each step of the way, and we did it for other people that we didn't know.
Right.
And that's what we're
Right.
doing now. So I'm the same way. When I walk through and I see the building that God wanted, it just gives me chills, because I told Bishop, because y'all know this, people that don't know this history, this has been a very strategic year. So in the year of the pandemic, we had so much extra. So with this extra, Bishop became consecrated as a bishop in October. So that was something that the people, he pastors and leads about 30 other pastors. And he has a meeting with them once a month and helps them with their churches and their leadership and their families and whatever. And so they said, they always calling him bishop. He said, well, I'm not legally a bishop, but they said, well, you're our bishop. So anyway, long story short, this last time this year, people start saying, well, what does it take for us to make you our bishop officially? Because we can just call you our bishop, whatever. So they started researching into it. And all of a sudden it just took off. And Bishop Walker said he would love to consecrate him as a bishop, because we just didn't want just anybody to lay their hands on him, because there's a lot of people who are bishops that we just really don't think that was what he would need for Bishop Ogletree. So Bishop Walker did that in October. So that was a big grand thing that in the midst of a pandemic. We're building the building in the midst of a pandemic. And this building, when I walked in it last week, I told Bishop, I said, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I said, this building has a personality that is different. When you walk in, it says something to you. So when you walk in there, I know what you meant, Annette, you just felt something different. This is the building that God wanted for us. So we can't cry over spilled milk, because God was saving us from having something built that was not of God by this man's evil hands. But this is the one he wants for us. And when we walk in there, oh my God, I'm having these days. So I guess we won't do a limousine. We're gonna have to walk across from the old building.
Right around in the parking lot and then go.
Right around the block, huh?
Right.
But it's a miracle, because in the pandemic, the prices went up and some of them almost doubled. So where we may have gotten the building loan for $5 million. Now that same building doesn't cost $5 million. It's like $2 million more. So then, Bishop was saying, well, where are we going to get the money to finish this and finish that and da da da? And I just simply told him this.
God will
I'm not worried about it. I said, call me, whatever. But I'm not worried about it because God has been carrying us from miracle to miracle.
Faith.
I said, so he's going to bless somebody to give some money, and we're going to be able to get sound system. It was like $8,000. We're going to be able to get that extra $8,000 in parking lot this. So I said, don't worry for tomorrow. Just take it for today. And so we are going to, all of us, God willing, we're going to stand still and see the power and the salvation of God work this miracle. Because it hasn't been us all along. God has been orchestrating our steps, even with Pastor Johnny, him wanting to venture out and start his own church, like his younger brother did. But that wasn't for him. God said, be patient. Don't get anxious for anything. What I have for you.
Still. Yes.
If you get anxious, you're gonna miss what I have for you. But we have to not look at what somebody else's plate has or what somebody else's church. All the other churches were building their churches, and we were like, try not to covet, but we were like, God, why can't we have a church like that? But a lot of these churches too, they're huge, and now they're trying to fill it because everybody's gone home. So we've got a beautiful church that God has orchestrated for us, and I just cannot wait. And I want all of the founding members to walk in there first. We're seeing 35 years. It'll be finished.
Wow.
5 years.
5 years.
Wow.
So
I'm not that old. I'm sorry.
well, I was a baby.
Well, actually, I'm only 35 years old. Okay.
Okay, people, let's just call it what this is called. That's not even a story. Okay. But anyway, what I wanted to just say that my heart though is heavy because I don't see our children's children understanding the importance of having a church home. I don't see them valuing the pastor, and searching for the word and growing up in the word. I see them going too much to the left of wanting to drunk on the wine of the world. The message I pay, they're just drunk on online stuff, into the house and not coming to each other. And so we got to figure out how do we get them to do that? Because we're going to be leaving here. We need to pass that torch so they know what to do. We want to make sure that they love the Lord really and searching for his word. We want to make sure that they know their Black history. And I really am getting on our parents, grandparents too, because if they don't have sense enough to teach it, we need to teach it. And the way it's so easy now because you just go on these documentaries and you have your grandkids over and you just start sitting down and watching and talking about it. That's what I'm doing with mine. Invite them over for some cookies or whatever, or just hang out with me and talk about that. Even talk about your own ancestors. Call her. We got to do that, guys, because our kids are going to be left here with not knowing who they are. And if they don't know who they are, it's going to be a mess.
Well, they say, how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you came from? So that's it. That's it.
So we're going through all this stuff now, this prejudice stuff and so forth, and our kids are getting the butt of it, and they don't know, well, what is this? We know what it is. And how do I get through this? And can I just keep it the way it was? No, you got to figure out how to get along with everybody, but to understand there is an evil spirit that came way back when from slavery, and it still has an ugly head that lays a little low, but given a chance, it will raise its other ugly head. And that's what we have happened.
Absolutely.
If we don't explain to them what's going on, they won't know what's going on.
That's true.
So I think that's it. I think our time is up, guys. Yes, it is. So we love First Med.
Yes, we
good
do.
show. Good show. Good show. Awesome.
Here we have our anniversary coming up this Sunday, and we're not. Is this no next? The end of the last Sunday.
Next Sunday.
the last Sunday in the month.
Yeah.
And also we've got, Bishop's birthday is coming up. And so
Yay.
wonderful things are coming up this year, guys. God is really blessing. This is our year. This is
Mm.
our
Yeah.
year.
Claim
And
it.
so, yeah, we thank the
Mhm.
Lord that we're able to see it, and want to invite everybody to come out. All the people we call that maybe at other churches or whatever, you still belong to First Met. You still
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, I've been there twice because my dad started his church. So I was a charter member of Palestine, charter
Yeah,
member of First Met. So as I say, when you're a charter member, you're always a member.
always a
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Carol comes over, we see her come in, it just does our heart good because she's family, and
That's
she'll
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
first.
And I do
Absolutely.
my community life class at First Met.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sure does.
Wow. Oh,
I do.
wow.
Listen, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, if you don't have a church home, we invite you to come to First Metropolitan Church.
Mhm.
It's the place where you belong. You should not be homeless. You need to have a church home because you will need
Man.
Yeah.
family.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
everybody on here can attest they've been in there for the long haul because they need a church home. So we give
It
Mhm.
works.
we thank you for
It helps.
today. And don't be homeless. Get in a church today. And
Absolutely.
your children to church, whether they want to or not. I did mine, and they all grew up to be very, very good kids.
Mhm. And I bring my
Absolutely.
great grands. I bring my great grands. So
Bring 'em.
I
You
bring them.
tell them what to do, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, guys, this has been Tea Talk with Lady O. I'm so glad you joined us today, and share this video with somebody else because somebody needs a church home today, and they
Mhm.
because you took the initiative to make it happen. We'll see you
Amen.
next week.